present day. Why don't we take a look at Klay's new home, guys? Dallas, the Mavericks, they're actually tied for the second best odds to win the West with both the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. All of this is according to ESPN Bet. So that is what the odds makers are saying here. I want to play a little fill in the blank here, if we could, as Kendrick Perkins joins us here. Tim Bontemps with us as well. But Festus, since you're new here, I'm going to start with you.
Wow, going with the rookie first.
I'm going with the rookie
first. What's up, Big Perk?
We're teeing it up for you, right? The Mavs are the blank best team with Klay in the Western Conference.
Wow, okay. I will say the Mavs with Klay Thompson in the lineup are going to be the best team in the West.
Oh, so you're just saying remove the blank.
I'm just...
the best.
The best team in the West. And I know the Minnesota Timberwolves and OKC Thunder are going to have a lot to say about this as well. But I'd say you're replacing a little bit of defense with more shooting by adding Klay Thompson into the lineup. I told you about what he brings on the court, but his chemistry and morale is going to be boosted because of this.
Perk, you're our veteran, so I got to turn to you. He says the best in the West.
Yeah, I'm not going to jump off the porch like that, but I will say they will probably be second, maybe third, but the best team in the West is going to be Oklahoma City, especially with getting Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. I just have a problem with looking at the Dallas Mavericks and wondering who's going to guard that's out there. If they're going to start Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving, and Luka, who are going to be their defenders to stop the other guys? Right? Yes, they're going to have all the offensive power. Is they going to sacrifice? That's another question that needs to be asked. And then again, it comes down to Luka as well, the most important piece. Is he going to come in a training camp in shape, and is he going to be able to sustain that level of conditioning throughout the playoffs? We saw in this last postseason that he kind of got back on the heavy side. Those injuries started to kick in. And when you make a deep finals run like the Mavs did this past season, you got to come back in better shape, ready for the longer haul.
Yeah, I mean, I think Perk touched on the two things that are important here. One, I think Oklahoma City, there's a bigger gap between them and the top of the West than there is between Boston and the top of the East. We look at the moves they made this summer, as good as they were last year already, being tied essentially with Denver and with Minnesota atop the West. Thunder are clearly, to me, the favorites to get out of the West. And then when you look at Dallas, yes, the Klay Thompson impact is going to be big on the offensive side. You have the three of those guys on the court. As you know, Fez, better than anybody, he's going to give Kyrie and Luka a ton of space to operate. But I go back to the same problem you saw all last year with the Warriors. When they had Klay out there with Steph and with Brandon Podziemski, they didn't have enough size on the perimeter to really guard effectively. And if you're going to have Klay starting, which right now he's going to start, if you have him, Luka, and Kyrie out there, that's not exactly a lot of defensive firepower. So I'm very curious to see what that fit looks like. I think Dallas is going to be a top 4 team in the West. You look right now, to me, they're in a pretty clear group with Minnesota and Denver. But that fit with Klay in the starting lineup and how everything looks overall, very curious to see how it goes. I think it's the biggest question to determine just how high Dallas' ceiling is going to be.
Yeah, I agree with Perk and Tim. I'm not jumping off the porch that much yet, but I want to ask you a question because when we look at the Golden State Warriors, a lot of people underestimated y'all's defense. You had some really big fives, but then Draymond was called to switch on everybody. Do you see Dallas being able to put it together and making the most out of this offensive juggernaut offense?
You have to say, when you look at Dallas last year, one of the biggest shifts for them at the end of the season, where they went 16-2 to end the season, was adding Daniel Gafford and really Derek Lively's transformation. He just continues to evolve as a player. So I'm putting the onus of the defensive pressure on the big fellas, because now you're having more offense with Klay Thompson. And so the big fellas are just going to be able to eat more on the offensive end, and they'll be more inspired.
But you know how we do. We from the same culture. You know what they say, charity begins at home. You have to have defensive tones set by your leader, and that's Luka Doncic. Remember the year where everyone was talking about Steph Curry coming in, he's in shape, he bulked up because he wanted to show his team that he was committed. You were there literally calling the games, or maybe you were in between stages. Yeah, you were there. So now I think it's going to be interesting to see how Luka responds to set the tone for accountability, not being a liability on defense, on top of having one of the most potent offenses, Klay Thompson, filling in a huge gap for them.
Well, and this was Luka's first taste of that specific stage. And so talking to Jason Kidd as it became clear that they weren't going to be able to defeat the Boston Celtics, he kind of said, well, maybe this is the moment. For some players, they need to play on that stage and feel what this feels like, be disappointed so they can build back up and know what the necessary requirements, exactly what you're talking about, that defensive prowess is. Well, Coach Tom Thibodeau, he spoke with NBA.com, saying in part, quote, we'll look at different things because we have versatility. We could see Julius Moore at the 5. I think he can do it. All right, Interesting. Let's go to our big man. Big
Welcome
Fur.
to the paint, big fella.
Is Julius Randle the key perk, do you think, to the Knicks' success this season?
I do.